We want to remind everyone we have social media exclusive content like our 2-minute drill as well as other video content. To find that, please make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for more. And we are kicking off episode number 6 here on the Let's Be Frank video podcast. I am Jason Duhe, and I'll be joined shortly by head coach Frank Monaco. And we have a great show for you tonight. We're going to recap Week 5 in the LHSAA, some great ball games. We're going to preview some Week 6 matchups. We're going to talk LSU, Tulane, Saints, and we're going to have special guest Tulane offensive coordinator Slade Nagle joining us, as well as coach talking about academic progress ratio. So before we get into any deep dive, we want to go ahead and take a moment to thank our title sponsor, Accardo and Dufresne Law Firm, your go-to River Parish lawyers. So, Coach, we want to go ahead and bring you on. And before we get started, I want to tell you congratulations on being part of the 2024 Louisiana Hall of Fame class. And just congratulations. And it's a statement to everything that you've done as a coach on and off the field. And I can't think of a better person for that to go to.
Well, I appreciate that. Appreciate you saying that, Jason. I'm letting someone like Drew Brees share the stage with me, too. I don't know what he's done, really, but
I mean, he can learn a thing or two from you, Coach. So we do want to go ahead and jump into our first segment of the night, which will be LHSAA football prep talk. And, Coach, before we dive into some of these recaps, we do have to talk about this vote, right? The vote that has been looming overhead like a dark cloud, kind of waiting to see what's going to happen, how the playoffs are going to play. And they finally defined what select is, and they're going to keep it in a similar system as what they had last year. What are your thoughts on that? Is this beneficial to the game itself and the sport itself in Louisiana?
It does. I mean, when you look at the information that came out of the Superdome last year with the 8 championship games, they all were very competitive games. There were not any real blowout games in it. Even leading up to that time, they made the brackets somewhat a little smaller, and in some cases, but yet it was competitive brackets, and not everybody was in the playoffs. So I think by having 8 champions rather than 9, now again, I don't know if it's over, but they will retain the structure they had last year. But then in January, there will be a lot of rhetoric, and there will be a lot of back and forth about exactly what's going to happen per sport in each class. So I think that'd be very interesting, but I'm really, really tickled to death to see it. I mean, there are a lot of people that didn't want to see someone like Carr be on the other side of their bracket. I mean, there are some people that would benefit from it. I looked at one of the brackets, for instance, and it's really, really very, very weak, and some people have a very good chance there. So you can tell that they voted for this particular process. And what it was, all they did is just define it, basically what the real meaning of select would be from here on out. Now, whether that changes in January, that's another thing. But for right now, we will go with the same plan as we had last year on a number of people in the playoffs and that same structure with 8 championships in the Superdome.
Just one more confusion to put on to another day, right, Coach? We'll wait until January, and we'll have this whole discussion again, and we'll have to redefine everything again. So
get your boxing gloves ready, for that period. That would be tough.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some of our recaps. In our first matchup, we had Riverside defeating Country Day 44-14. Riverside, a very powerful, small school ball club, and again, proving their prowess over a Country Day ball club that has talent, has skill, but just not quite on the level of Riverside.
The second leading rusher in the state, and really, really good back, and well coached. Coach Russell coached the offensive line himself, and well-rounded team. So they're a team to reckon with. I think their 6th ranking is not as good as I think that they really are. I think they're one of the first or second team in the state in their class.
Definitely could be part of that discussion. And our next matchup, we had St. Charles taking on Vandebilt Catholic. St. Charles won 30-13. Coach, I attended the ball game. I didn't think the score was if it felt like it was a wider margin than that. St. Charles ran the ball very effectively. Somebody by the name of Jackson Monaco had a heck of a game receiving the football. St. Pierre passed the ball, extremely effective. But a big turning point was at the end of the first half when backs were against the wall after giving up an uncharacteristic kickoff for a touchdown against Coleman. Their backs are against the wall, and they forced a turnover. So I think that was really the turning point in the game.
Right, not on that. And they had a block punt at the end. Kyle Cannon, I think a prospect at a linebacker, he had a block a punt, and that was big for a safety in that ball game. But I do agree with you. I think that the game, and Coach St. Charles really in the fourth quarter subbed. And then there was a late touchdown that Vandebilt scored on their second unit. But really, I think the game was in hand early. Classic St. Charles football. Kick off the ball. They try to bounce it. They knocked him down at about 15. Defense goes 3 and out. Then the offense goes in on a short few scores. Classic SEC football and a big solid win.
Couldn't draw it up any better yourself, huh, Coach?
Yeah, amen. And Brady St. Pierre continues to do well, and Jackson, my grandson's had a good night receiving the ball and stuff like that. So I think that I think they're getting better. They're a well-rounded football team and a team to contend with.
Definitely a formidable force in that bracket, regardless how you chop it up with Duhe now being in their side of the bracket. In our next matchup, we had Jesuit taking on St. Aug. Maybe a bit of a surprise to some people. This young Jesuit squad winning 13-6 over a very talented St. Aug ball club. We had Coach Manali on just a week ago. I'm sure he's very proud of his ball club fighting back after a lot of adversity this season and winning this ball game.
The quarterback, Perez, is really, really good. He's a big, tall guy, but he had over 100 yards rushing himself. And their quarterback design runs, it's almost like having a wildcat guy back there. And St. Aug uncharacteristically turned over the ball several times, had a lot of penalties in the ball game. They let Jesuit hang around. If you let them hang around with a good defense, you have an opportunity to lose the game. And St. Aug is talented, but Jesuit was very, very resilient in that ball game, came away with it. That's a huge, huge upset.
In our next matchup, we had Rummel taking on Scotlandville. We said that both teams were kind of struggling coming in, and Rummel found their way. 42-12 victory for the Raiders. Another loss. I got to hear an interview from Coach Monica on the radio, and he said that Berg is now out as well. I mean, that totals up to what, 9, 10? It feels like the mashed unit at this point, Coach. It's really disheartening to see a ball club suffer that many injuries, but hats off to them for not letting that be an excuse and win this ball game handily.
All right, and the quarterback threw for 2 touchdowns. Bilgudge, he threw for 2 touchdown passes, and he had a real fine running back, and he's had another 100-yard game by the name of Martin, and he's a quality running back. Big win, as you said. They needed that one because they got another tough one. When you play in the Catholic League, there's no rest, and so you have to get ready and have that short memory and turn the page and go on from there. And they're not going to feel sorry for you. That only thing that matters is what's on your jersey. They're not going to feel sorry for you about your injuries.
There are no bye weeks or gimme wins in the Catholic League, and they're going to take on Curtis, and we'll talk about that game a little bit later. In our next matchup, we had Carr defeating Brother Martin 19-7. Brother Martin's defense played some solid football, although I heard an interview from Coach, and he said for Carr, and he said, he was not happy at all with his performance of his offense. He was very disappointed. And Coach, when do you know to either chastise a team or say, look, these are the things we need to work on? At what point do you know that you need to give your team a swift kick? Because it definitely is a delicate balance of when you need to be harsh, when you need to be reassuring, and when you need to motivate your team. How do you decide that?
I think that the bottom line in this particular ballgame, I know Coach Brown was probably disappointed, but give credit to Brother Martin and Coach Bodie for a game plan. They led the game at halftime, but Carr came away with a tough win, and always prepare your team for their other team's best effort. You always prepare for their team's best effort. What if they play their best? If they play their best, you'd have a chance to beat me. On the flip side of it, I think as a coach, when you go into a ball game, you have to know when to admonish them and make sure you correct the act and not the kid. And I think it's very important you keep coaching and correct the act and not the kid himself. You don't mention his name, but I want you to put your foot here, your hand here. This is where your eyes should be. And a lot of kids don't play with their eyes, and they don't think. So I think the bottom line is, the coach, you need to get their attention. And some weeks, no matter what you say, they're not paying attention, and all of a sudden, that's when you get yourself set up for some kind of upset.
And one of the monikers I use all the time in my life is, I'm not sure if you were the first one to use it or if it was Coach Wayne Stein, head coach of St. Charles, would always say it. I know I heard him say it a bunch. Listen to what I say, not how I'm saying it. And that's a big thing to pay attention to as a player as well, to know when you're being coached, and don't worry about how the volume that's being told to me at. Listen to the information. I think that's one thing that players these days need to kind of learn and understand as well.
Exactly.
In this next matchup, Coach, I got a chance to call this game, and it was a phenomenal ball game up there with some of the greats that I've gotten to watch. you call, whether I was on the sideline as a reporter or a player. Holy Cross defeats John Curtis 42-41. This is an offensive juggernaut effort between both ball clubs. What it all boiled down to is John Curtis goes up early on. Holy Cross finds a way to battle back. Late in the game, John Curtis said, we're going to melt this clock. We know that they have a ton of D1 talent. We're going to melt the clock. They boil it down to 1 minute. They squib kick it because they're afraid to give the ball to the athletes in the back. And on Holy Cross drives down the field, converts on a 4th down, has 7 seconds, chucks it in the end zone down 7 points, scores on a bobbled pass, and then goes for the win on the 2-point conversion and wins. Unbelievable ball game. And this is a statement win for this Holy Cross ball club. They have never beaten John Curtis, and to be fair, not many teams in the state have done so. But, Coach, they have to be considered a legitimate threat to be state title contenders after this win. I mean, this is a very impressive win against a really good John Curtis ball club.
I saw him a week earlier, and I was trying to ask myself, how can they stop Curtis? And I don't know if they did. But the bottom line, you saw their offense was very, very, very good. They got 2 good receivers on the outside. The quarterback, Canatella, is very, very efficient. He throws a beautiful pass and stuff like that, and he's a gamer. So when you got that kind of guy with that kind of moxie, I mean, you can win a lot of ball games. And for a team that didn't win many district games in the last few years, here they are sitting at 2-0. And a challenge, but of course, the Catholic League is still the Catholic League, and it's still a meat grinder of a league. And with this big win, they got to be careful not to pat themselves on the back too much. They just need to continue. But I was really, really surprised at the overall score. I didn't think that they could score that much on John Curtis because their defense has always been very, very sound. And I'm sure that they're going to work on that. But yet again, hats off to Coach Watney for turning around that program in just a short period of time.
Coach, can you relate to this experience where you're trying to turn around a ball club in St. Charles, for example, a moment, a game, a situation where your team won and you said, man, we've come a long way from where we started, and I really see the light through the woods, the light at the end of the tunnel?
Years ago, it was probably my first year there. We had only won about 3 games or so, and we played a team that was number 2 in the state, and it was Christian Life at the time. And we were able to beat them at home. And I think that led it into the next season to have a real fine, because we saw a real good sophomore class. And we knew once that group got there, but that win was very, very important. And we did it at home against a kid that was going to quarterback that was going to Louisville. And that was a big win, a big momentum game. And it kind of got us over the hump and started saying, well, maybe we can win here.
Thanks, Coach. And let's go ahead and take a look at some of our previews. We have a ton of great games to get to. A lot of them sitting in the Catholic League. Brother Martin sits at 3-2, takes on Jesuit 2-3. You have to feel like Jesuit has some momentum. They get a win over a really good ball club in St. Aug. Brother Martin maybe kind of reeling after that loss, but again, had a solid defensive effort against a good Carr ball club. We know Jordan West is a talented back. Jesuit's going to have to find a way to contain him. But, hey, they found a way to contain a lot of athletes on St. Aug last week, so all bets are off with this game. I
agree. That's a great matchup. It's been for years. And when Jesuit plays Brother Martin, they have similar type of football teams and similar type of programs. They're 2 of the biggest schools in the Catholic League in themselves as far as enrollment. They'll both be well coached. There'll be a battle. They have to definitely go to the 4th quarter. I'll be a bit surprised to see this one go to overtime.
We know that big physical defensive front of Brother Martin is going to try to give them headaches. We'll see if they're able to do just that. In our next matchup, we have Rummel taking on John Curtis. Rummel comes in at 2-3, getting that win after playing a Scotlandville team that's had a bit of a rough go. Curtis took a tough loss. Something that they don't take very often is a loss against Holy Cross. We know the amount of athletes that Curtis has. Michael Turner at wide receiver. Again, he'll get some carries, and a really solid quarterback in Bruno, a 3-year starter type of guy. But Rummel maybe finding their footing is going to be a tough uphill battle, but they've got to find a way to control the football, because I watched it a week ago. Curtis has the ability to melt the clock or put up points really quickly. It's a matter of what they choose to do. Your defense has to step up in this game.
I think Curtis had their offense, that their run is going to be hard on Rummel to stop that offense. And I think it's important that they try to force some turnovers along the way, and hopefully their offense, as you said, could control the ball a little bit. And the quarterback for Curtis is about to find the throws I've seen them have over the years. Plus, they got the people to go with it. So it's good. It's good. And you face the wounded Curtis, and that's not a good time to face them. Coming off that loss, because they'll be back. I mean, what they're all about. You know about their character and what they have to play for. And for Rummel, I mean, they're trying to get there, so they're trying to get some guys healed up. But I think some of these guys are out for the year. But I think that Coach Monica's got a big task in front of him just to slow this Curtis team down.
Jaden Martin's going to have a big day for the Raiders to have a shot in this ball game. And Buggage did a pretty good job operating the offense. He's going to have to continue moving forward to hit his targets like Ruben Ramirez on the outskirts. We'll see if that trend continues of them winning. In our next game, we have Riverside taking on St. Martin's. Riverside 4-1. St. Martin's is unbeaten. We know the talent that St. Martin's has at running back. They have Harlan Berry, an exceptional back, rushed for 1,500 yards or just shy of 1,500 yards a year ago. Riverside's defense is stout. They have a really nice-sized defensive front, and it goes both ways. Some of the guys on the offensive line are pretty solid, stout guys as well. But look, they got Caleb Brumfield, who was a solid player last year, was All-State. A kid that I coached by the name of Jaden Butler, who is a solid, intelligent football player, going to play defensive back for this ball club. Riverside's a scary ball club, and I think we'll see if Barry and this offense can move the football effectively against this Riverside team.
Don't be surprised if the Riverside running back outshines him, because he's got to go. Barry's got to go against Riverside's defense. Coach Lashley will have them ready. And another twist of this story, Coach Dizer was the head football coach at Riverside just 2 years ago. And last year he was the assistant coach at St. Martin. Now he's the head coach there. So this game's going to have a lot of implications there. I really don't see St. Martin getting upper hand in this thing, because Riverside is sound. I think they're going to be jacked up for it. And when you look at the districts and who they have left to play, this is the game between these two schools. I think after this, both teams are settled down into the opponents are just not as competitive as this game. So it's going to go down to that. But I don't see how this team will match up against Riverside. I think Riverside will be a stronger football team on both sides of the football.
Coach, you've coached many years, and I'm sure you've had schedules where, by no fault of your own, the backstretch, maybe it's like this, a week 6, a week 7 game is the climax. And then you have a bit of a downward spiral at the end in terms of the competition you're playing. How do you keep a team focused after this game, regardless of the outcome, moving forward when it's not a big matchup, maybe at the end of your calendar that you're looking to build towards? It's a matter of getting yourself better. How do you keep a team motivated and focused?
You do things differently. Well, number one, you keep working on fundamentals. You don't let those fundamentals, you go back and you start working. Maybe you might take a day and say, today is like day 1 of camp. And we're going to work this. We're going to work tackling. We're going to work blocking. We're not even going to do much teamwork. We're just going to do a lot of fundamentals. Even in special teams, we're going to break down, do a lot of drill work for special teams rather than doing the team aspect of it. So you got to keep them sharp and keep them interested in making sure, because fundamentals never leave you. Emotion will leave you after that kickoff, but the fundamentals never leave you. So I think it's important that you keep going back to those things, and that's the coaches call those daily musts. A daily must means what do you do every day, and those daily musts, I think, they must be repeated, or else that they'll get away from you.
Absolutely, Coach. And moving on to our next matchup, we have Holy Cross, who is unbeaten, and they're going to take on St. Aug, who is coming off of a loss to Jesuit. St. Aug has a tough task ahead of them. This is a Holy Cross team that has a lot of momentum, but you've mentioned it many times before, after your highest high country, lowest low. This St. Aug team has a ton of talent. They have a really solid quarterback in Dawson Simmons. They have a really solid defensive tackle in Jakeem Stewart, and even defensive end in Warren Roberts, who can put some pressure on Canatella maybe. Holy Cross has played really good offensive football. Their offensive line is held up, but this is still a talented group on defense that St. Aug is going to bring to the table.
And there's no question. I think that, one, they're going to have to really do something about their penalties. I know they had over 100 yards of penalties in the ball game, and don't know exactly what they were. I'm sure that they stressed that this past week, and also have to cut down on the turnovers, because I know they had some crucial turnovers against Jesuit a week ago. And if they do, it could be a tough night for Holy Cross, because talent-wise, they would have a little bit more speed on the field than Holy Cross. But again, Holy Cross's offense is the difference maker, so they're going to have to control the ball and really keep that offense off the field.
And our next matchup, we have Belle Chase taking on Newman. Belle Chase is at 3-1. Newman is at 4-0. We've mentioned the athleticism of Friend at quarterback for Newman. But look, Will Lorzell is also a tight end committed to play college football. He's been making plays, and he's not the only guy. You also have Will Dara, who is a really solid defensive end, maybe not getting his name called as much as some other guys. And Peter Loop, been a solid receiver. But they're going to have to slow down this Belle Chase rushing attack, courtesy of Jaden Voisin. Again, another guy who rushed for 1,800 yards a year ago. He's a guy to keep an eye on, and Newman will definitely be keying in on him defensively.
I know Coach Myers, he's not going to change anything for any game and any team. He's going to run the football, and they're going to be sound with it. The offensive line will make sense. They will have a hat for a hat, and for offensive football, if they have success, that's what you want. You don't want any free hitters, and sometimes simple is really, really good, because when you keep it simple, kids play harder. When they're confused, all of a sudden they don't play as hard because they slow down and they stop. So it's important that you keep it simple enough that it's not what the coaches know, what those players know. And I think I talked to Coach Stewart today. He's concerned because they could shrink the game and not give him as many at bats that he'd like to have. So and this will be a pretty good test for Newman, because I think this is one of the better Newman teams that the coaches had there. They can run it, they can throw it, they can play a little defense, and they've done a great job of improving their special teams.
And they definitely need to make sure their special teams are on point with having that future date with St. Charles Catholic. Abbyville will take on St. Charles Catholic as we talk about them. Abbyville comes in 4-1. St. Charles is unbeaten. I'm not going to talk about the athletes at St. Charles. We've done that so many times. I will say I think the unsung hero has been the offensive and defensive fronts. Experienced groups, and they play like it. They've done a fantastic job, but they're going to have to be ready. There's an experienced Abbyville ball club. 8 guys returned offensively, 6 defensively. They like to run the football, a similar style to St. Charles, and they have a very senior-laden offensive line returning.
And Coach Stein reminded me this week, he said that, Abbyville last year when they played them had a 20-play drive, and they kept their offense off the field. So I think that's going to probably be their game plan this week, is go for it on 3rd and 4th down, keep the ball, keep it away from St. Charles, because St. Charles' offense is pretty explosive. They got Daniel Joe that can catch the deep ball. Brendan Craig has been incredible as a tight end. Had some big plays. They got a couple of running backs that Willis has been really explosive. Brady St. Pierre's had a fine season so far up to this point. On defense, you got Kyle Cannon as the linebacker. That's really good. But as secondary with Brady Bertucci out there as a safety, kind of keeps things in order. They got Caden on one of the corners, and then that they just have so much speed, I think, in the secondary that St. Charles has not had in a long, long time. So, but if a powerful football team will negate that speed. And I think that's what Abbyville is going to have to do to shrink the game, get it to the 4th quarter. But yeah, I think on the other end, I think St. Charles is going to have a pretty good plan. And if a team is one-dimensional, it's going to be very, very hard for them to defeat St. Charles if they're one-dimensional.
Barrios also made a nice play at the defensive back position with that interception. He seems like a very typical St. Charles guy, a bit undersized but very scrappy and feisty.
He had 3 big interceptions already this year. He really has. You're right.
He's a playmaker that we kind of goes untalked about, but definitely made an impact in the game on Friday night. And now we're going to go ahead and change gears, Coach, and take a look at some college football, some good and some bad. Good being our first matchup, as Tulane was able to defeat UAB 35-23 in that matchup. Coach, it was a bit closer than what the score showed, but Tulane again showing their prowess down the stretch, making the plays that they need to, including some big time calls by the coaching staff, and they just remain to be, in a word, consistent on all phases of the game.
But I thought their defense didn't play as well as they're capable of playing. In fact, that's why they went for it on that big 4th down. They threw deep on the 4th down and 5 from their it was the plus 30-yard line, but coach decided not to punt the ball. It was 32-yard line to be exact, and they went for it and threw a touchdown pass in the end zone. That was a huge call, because I don't know if they were comfortable giving UAB the ball back, because they hadn't stopped them all day. Early in that ball game, UAB was on the 1-foot line, and they ran a quarterback sneak. The ball popped up, and went in the end zone, and Tulane got a touchback out of it. So there's always got to be a little luck somewhere during the season, but I don't think that they played up to par, but they came out of there with a victory, and I think, a credit to them, because, when you don't play your best and you still get a win, you can always build off of a win better than you can off of a loss.
Coach, Tulane has a bye week this upcoming week. They're going to take on Memphis the following Friday. But I'm going to relate this back to high school football real quick, because do you think that they should maybe start the season a little bit earlier in, say, Louisiana, and allow them to have a bye week during the course of the season?
Well, no, I really don't like bye weeks at all. As a coach, I tell you what happens in a bye week. The kids lose their focus and they lose intensity. It's amazing coming off a bye week. Because maybe in NFL it's different, maybe in college it's different. A lot of people don't know how to handle a bye week. Do you practice in the middle of the week? Or do you give them off the Monday and Friday? Or you just give them off Monday and Tuesday and practice at the end of the week? A lot of people, there's still a lot of talk about what's the best way to handle bye weeks. As soon as a bye week occurs, coaches call one another and say, what are you doing this week? And they call one another, and they call successful coaches and say, well, this is what we do. But on the high school level, I don't think bye weeks are any good whatsoever, because you need to have control of those young kids and keep their mind on football, or else if they get away from it, they will not play with that same emotion on the next ball game.
Thanks, Coach. And speaking of emotionless seeming at times football, LSU took on Ole Miss and lost 55-49. Offense played out of their mind. I thought Daniels did a great job, but defensively it was a train wreck, to say the least. Tackling not there. Secondary was non-existent. And it seemed like you could also put some finger pointing at the coaching. In big moments, playmakers weren't on the field. Weeks was missing at times. Perkins was missing at times. I didn't quite understand what they were doing, but they don't have a long time to figure out what they need to do and what adjustments they need to make with Missouri next week.
Well, a lot of credit goes to Ole Miss's offense, but they didn't do anything elaborate. What I couldn't get over the space on the running game, and even in the passing game, it wasn't only the catch. And Lou Holtz has always said it's never just a completion; it's to run after the catch. And they allowed runs after the catch. I mean, multiple times, a number of plays over 20 yards in the game, runs and passes. I don't know exactly what was going on there. There was a couple of times in the ball. I didn't remember. I was talking about how Jalen Daniels runs too high, and sure enough, he got hit one time and the ball coughed up because he runs straight up. And you would like to see him kind of have a little tilt in the shoulder, especially on contact, because that was a blow. The ball would probably come out anyway. Second thing I didn't understand, the kickoff from the 50-yard line after the penalty, they squibbed it, and Ole Miss got the ball on the 35, and they just had a narrow lead at the time. I don't know what they were trying to do there. Did the kicker just miss it? There was no explanation on it. Or did they not kick the ball in the end zone, or was it an onside kick? Or did they kick the ball inside the 10? But that was for some reason that kick itself didn't make much sense. It gave Ole Miss a shorter field, and they couldn't stop them to begin with. But more importantly, defensively, you saw some guys that discombobulated. They were out of position. They didn't tackle well. I think someone charted it in the paper. They analytics said they had like 59 missed tackles, and you're not winning many ball games like that.
And now you have a game against Missouri on the road, a place that they have not played well. Very similar field to Kentucky. Just for whatever reason, LSU didn't. I mean, of course, it was 2020. LSU didn't play great that season. But last time they played Missouri on the road, they lost. And I'm going to tell you, when you look at a team that ranks top 15 in pass offense, or it's something along the lines of top 10, top 15, and you have a defense that ranks 117, and you can't tackle, there's definitely room for concern, and I think people need to be concerned about this Missouri ball club. I don't think this is a gimme win. I don't care what the spread is. I'm not touching this. I'm not touching this game with any type of bet, because you don't know what team is going to show up, Coach.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think you fix those defensive problems in 3 practice days. Because that's no, you give them off on a Monday and practice Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday very light. And you're going to travel on Friday. I just don't think you're going to fix that. I mean, I think there's probably a lot of preaching going on this week, and soul searching, probably some team meetings going on this week. especially on the defensive side. But I'll go back to that. There were a couple offensive series that I'm sure that they would love to have back, that especially at the end of the ball game in the fourth quarter, that they didn't perform well. One was having the back in the backfield that wasn't a very good receiver. But I don't think that you fix those problems within a week. So I look for Missouri to have a lot of success on offense, and hoping that, again, LSU's offense can actually outscore them. But one thing that LSU's special teams are still not making any plays. Remember, they missed a field goal in this ball game, and their special teams are not doing anything special whatsoever. Remember, Arkansas, they had a fake field goal against them. So you just like to see them step up their special teams just a little bit more.
Coach, a special teams fake after a timeout where the holder was practicing the fake before they ran the play, and they still couldn't stop it. So, Coach, we're going to go ahead and change gears and take a look at the Saints. And the Saints didn't look too great this weekend either, as they dropped their game to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 26-9. At least one team in Louisiana that we discussed had a nice weekend, because it wasn't the Saints or LSU. Just a rough performance, Coach, from all fronts. Couldn't get anything going offensively, and that seems to be a trend that we've seen. How do they adjust? How do they fix it? Do you think Kamara being back in the offense can help them to move the football more effectively offensively, and how do they get him quickly involved in the game planning?
A lot of blame is going on Carr, and I think the credit gets there's too much credit to give the quarterback and too much discrepancy when he doesn't play well. So he gets the blame for all these little things. But, one, you guys have the guys that was the big play in the game, but the fullback is wide open on the Carr scramble to extend the play, and the guy misses the ball. It was a big play. It would have been a first down. So some guys, when they get the opportunity, have to make that play. I like to see them, on offensively stretch the field a little bit more verticals, and use the middle of the field. I think that the better quarterbacks, I go back to Joe Burrow, I go back to Breeze, they use the middle of the field a lot more because there's a lot of space in there, because the sideline is like another person. So, but I do think there's a lot of space. Now, the question is, and we talked about this earlier, I think that offensive line must keep the integrity of the pocket. Now, what does that mean? Even though the quarterback is not touched, the quarterback has to be able to step up in the pocket and slide up in the pocket with the edge rushers on the outside so he can see the passing lane. If he cannot step up in the pocket, then everything's collapsing around him. That's when you have problems. You can't see the receivers. And now we see it from a higher angle, but you got to remember what he sees. He sees something from the ground level. And a lot of 6'6" guys with their hands in the air, that's like thrown out of a silo. I don't know if you people know what a silo is, but he's like thrown out of a silo. So I think that Coach Carmack was a very, very capable guy as for calling the plays, but those plays have to be executed. I like to see him do a little bit more screens to slow down that rush, and maybe a couple more things to a little innovative. I like to see him be a little bit more innovative with Taysom Hill, because rather than him just run the ball all the time, he's certainly good enough to throw it.
Yes, and I think you're going to have to see them be a little bit more to have to find ways to maneuver around the offense. I know Carr was kind of banged up and trying to figure out a way around dealing with that as well. Again, they have another opportunity this weekend against the Patriots, and again, it's the NFL. There's no opportunity to be able to catch your breath. You're going to face a really good defense, and again, as a coach, it's Bill Belichick and his team. It's like I mentioned when we talked about playing Alabama. It's Nick Saban, so you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a well-coached team that's going to execute. It's about finding ways to get your playmakers the ball and playing hard enough, good enough defense to keep them out the end zone.
Look at Denver. Denver turns around after giving up 70. They turn around to win the football game. Look at Miami. Miami scored 70. They end up scoring 20 the next game. So, I've always said this. You can put all the DBs in one room and you can't pick them out. The difference is to get them to play together and get them to play as hard as they possibly can. So hopefully they can go there and get a W and get a streak going.
Thanks, Coach. And we're going to go ahead and take our first break. And when we come back, we will have special guest Slade Nagle joining us, offensive coordinator for the Tulane Green Wave. But before we head to break, we want to go ahead and thank our title sponsor, Accardo and Dufresne Law Firms, your go-to River Parish lawyers. We'll be back after the break. Samuel Accardo Jr. and Henri P. Dufresne, your go-to River Parish lawyers. Experience, tenacity, and results. Sammy Accardo and Henri Dufresne provide comprehensive legal services in personal injury, hurricane claims, business litigation, successions, and estate planning. Our trial experience, know-how, and commitment to protect and serve our clients is unparalleled. We provide complete real estate, title, and escrow services through our affiliate, State Title LLC. The River Parishes is our home, and serving our communities is our passion. Based out of Gramercy, Louisiana, LSR produces Southern cane, pure cane sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. LSR utilizes the latest innovations in technology, as well as ensuring the growth and stability of Louisiana's sugarcane farmers by integrating more than 800 growers in the industry's economic structure. Southern cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets.
Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. Our goal has been to establish a strong relationship and partnership between you, the insurance company, and our agency, creating a circle of success that prepares for disasters before they actually happen.
Tonight, our special guest is with his 8th season with the Tulane Green Wave, holding the positions of assistant coach, offensive coordinator, and quarterbacks coach. I want to welcome on Coach Slade Nagle. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. And how much work goes into game planning, calling plays, and even play design? Because so many people are experts on their couch, but how much work actually goes into it week in and week out?
First, thanks for having me on. It's a lot of work, to be honest with you. You know, first it starts kind of on our end. The way we started is all scheme based, and and then you move forward from there, trying to fit your players and piece them in the right places to try and get the right players the balls and all those kind of things. So it's it's very tedious, and you only get so many shots at it, so many cracks at it. So you're trying to make sure that you have the right pieces in the right places and, take full advantage of it once you get out there.
Coach, before we get too far, tell us a little bit about your background, because you've really paid your dues and all through the ranks. You were a quarterback in your own right, yourself as a high school, very, very successful quarterback, but all-state guy. Please give our viewers a little background on where you came from, and especially, I think you had a unique story on when you first got hired by Coach Fritz.
Yeah. So I'm from Louisiana. Obviously, my dad, coached in the state and was in the FCS ranks for many years. Coached at Nichols, coached at McNeese, Northwestern State. So I grew up in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I think I moved there when I was probably 4th or 5th grade. He was an assistant. He was fortunate enough to be at McNeese for like 13 years, and they had some very good years during that time. So I finished my high school career and everything there. We were fortunate enough to work together. After college, I worked with him at Northwestern State. We worked for a guy by the name of Scott Stoker, and I really enjoyed that. That was my first college job, really my first job, coaching period, and being able to work with him on the same staff was exciting. And then from there, I moved. I coached junior college ball for a couple years in Kansas. I've been at Central Arkansas, Texas State. I ended up back at McNeese State for 4 years with Matt Viatar, and then had the opportunity to come with Coach Fritz here to Tulane. So we coached against Coach Fritz while he was at Sam Houston, and at that point in time, I was a special teams coordinator at McNeese, and he moved on and went to Georgia Southern, and I spent 2 days, one off season going to visit him and talk ball and whatnot. And was fortunate enough for him to reach out and give me an opportunity when he came here. So, and been here with him ever since, and enjoyed, every day and every minute of it, and really have a lot of respect for him and how he runs the program, and learned so much from him, in these last 7.5, 8 years. So,
right,
that's where I'm at.
Coach, I've been at some of your meetings, and I really enjoyed the fact that I can tell you're a good teacher, and I know that you moved up the ranks mighty quickly. And I can tell Coach Fritz is, I just love your practices, just to watch you guys practice. You are so organized. You make everything count. Everything's so accountable in practice. And I don't know if I've been to better practices, even though I was in college myself for 12 years, and watched a lot of other practices too, from the Lou Holtzes to the Joe Paternos. And I don't think I've seen a more organized practice than what you guys do under Coach Fritz. I mean, you think about all the little things, and it shows so far, because I know that you guys don't have a lot of 5-star athletes running around, but it's just a pleasure to watch you guys work and teach.
I appreciate it. Coach has been at it for a while as a head coach now, and he's got so much experience. And it's like anything, the more years you go at it, the more things you learn that, the right way, or the way you like to do it, rather than things you don't like. And, he's got it pretty much etched in stone, what he likes. He knows what he wants. And he just does such a great job leading the staff and the players. And I think it's a direct reflection of what you're talking about. So, hey, yes. And I tell you what, you run, when you were coaching, heck, you run a great practice. Coach ran one of the best practices I've ever seen, definitely, in high school coaching. A lot of respect for you as well, Coach.
Well, thank you, Coach. Coach, the other day you guys ran your first touchdown. I thought it was a great design. You got underneath, you ran the motion, and you ran, I don't know if it's a speed sweep out from underneath the center. And, I mean, you're unbalanced. It looked like you unbalanced on TV from what I could see. And then you hit them outnumbered to that side, and you scored easy. That was a great design on that play.
Yeah, it was. We actually traded the tight end back to the field, and it was a speed sweep off a running wide zone to the boundary, and handing it to the speed sweep going back to the field, and kind of push crack with the wide out, and brought the tight end around, and we kind of felt going into the game, that we're fortunate enough. We've got some guys at wide out that have speed, and trying to find more ways to get the ball in their hands and let them, be playmakers and help us out in the run game or whatnot. And we were fortunate. That was number 5, a young man, Keith Brown, that really did a good job for us. We were able to get him on the edge, and was a big play for us, obviously, to get started.
No question, Coach. You also had a touchdown on the screen. Well, you faked the screen. You actually faked with the wide receiver screen, then the tight end is wide open in the end zone. I thought, again, that was a great design.
I appreciate it. That's one we've kind of carried for the last couple of years. And, we really struggled in the red zone the week before against Nichols. So they did a fabulous job, I thought, on defense. And, we got in the red zone and had a couple turnovers. So we put a lot of focus on it, always, but extra focus this past week, trying to improve and get better. And, that was just one of the wrinkles, where that's kind of the zone principle play we have. And we kind of have it where the quarterback can alert it to, a man beater play if you get man. So, it was kind of the right setup, and guys did a really good job executing.
Yeah, Coach, I really enjoyed that screen. You guys ran the screen that was called back for 45. I thought that was a huge play of the game. It was called back, and when they showed the replay of it, even in real life time, I didn't think the kid was holding. I know if I'd have been on the sideline, I'd have been put in jail on that one. But I thought that was a huge momentum play in that ball game. But, Coach, I'm going back now, the fourth down call. I mean, the people are still talking about the fourth down call. But, I knew you probably would go for it. But I never did suspect that you guys were going to go deep on the play. But what was the discussion going into that particular play?
Well, I'll tell you, that was Coach Fritz. And I thought, when he suggested it, I thought it was really smart. And, like he said, hey, if we punt it and we punt it into the end zone, we're going to gain 10 to, whatever it was, 12, 13 yards of field position. He goes, do you think we can take a shot and see what we get here? And I said, hey, well, we'll line up and get in 12 personnel. And if we get one-on-ones, that's as good as you can get. And, that was kind of the thinking behind it, was the risk reward was worth it. And, you punt it in the end zone, and, heck, you gain 10 yards, or you throw it incomplete, or you got a chance maybe to get a pass interference call or whatnot. So that was kind of the thinking behind it. And they, we had made them use their timeout, so that was part of the plan going in as well. So
that was a really gutsy call, especially because your defense wasn't up to snuff that day, and that was really gutsy. And you guys, I've always believed, Coach, you have to win with offense. People don't understand what that means. I've always thought that the defense prevents you. Defense is really, really good, but offense wins games, and I think you need to be very aggressive, like you guys. And I've seen Coach Fritz over the years, and you guys have really been aggressive on fourth down calls in many games, even against Ole Miss, when you didn't even have your best quarterback on the field.
Yeah. We're a huge analytics team, and a lot of that goes into it. It goes into your production as an offense and your opponent's production as a defense, where you're at on the field, the probability of you making it, and and then a lot of it goes into play as the probability of you making it, as well as if you don't make it, then what situation do you leave them in? And I think that's kind of the trend of college football is going that way. You see more and more people on fourth downs going for it. So it allows you on third down as well to run the ball a little bit more and get it into fourth down situations where you have a chance to go for it. And if watching us play, we try and utilize that quite a bit. In fact, our first scoring drive, I think we had, third and I want to say we were maybe 3rd and 16, and we ran a counter play to get it down to like 4th and 6 or 7, and ended up going for it and converting. So that's kind of the trend of where things are going, and people are more aggressive, and like you said, trying to not to leave it in the defense's hands or per se, or let the other offenses get the ball back. So just being aggressive and going after it.
Coach, a lot of people and didn't know it at first, but when you guys beat USC in the bowl game last year, it was very exciting. I was there. I've never seen a lot of people that I coached were there. People came out of woodwork. They were flying in just for that ball game, and y'all really made Tulane very, very proud. The alumni was excited as all get out, and that. I think afterwards, it was found out that you were really the guy calling the plays, and then Coach Fritz after that made you the official offensive coordinator.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. The entire season last year was a lot of fun, and like I said, it starts off when you get to work for a guy who has the plan in place and has the program, running the right way in the right direction. That makes your job easier, and we had a bunch of good players, and a lot of those guys have carried over to this year, and it was fun. It really was, and you got to give the players credit, for that entire ball game in the Cotton Bowl, that they never quit, even when things didn't look very good for us, and we were having a hard time stopping them. And I think we fumbled there in the fourth quarter that felt really big, but our guys kept fighting, and the ball bounced our way a couple plays, and ended up having a chance to win it at the end, and guys made plays.
Yeah, Coach, I was really impressed. You guys don't normally turn it over. I know Saturday was an anomaly because the running backs lost a couple balls, which they don't normally do, because I know you guys really, really stress ball security. I've watched you guys practice and the whole deal. And one of them was a pretty good hit, but the other guy just kind of dropped the ball. But wasn't it worse? The next quarterback losing the quarterback sneak and the ball popped up. That was unique play in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, it was, I guess at the time, I can't remember it. I guess we were maybe up by 8 at the time or whatnot, but that was a huge play. And, anytime we talk about it all the time, trying to win the turnover takeaway margin, us on offense, protecting the football, and the defense, obviously trying to get takeaways. And there's such big momentum swings. And, it's something that we got to get better at as an offense moving forward. We, 2 weeks ago against Nichols, we turned it over twice in the red zone through two interceptions, and then last week we fumble in the red zone. So, those plays kill you. And like you said, UAB, that was a huge fumble of our defense getting it back there and negating the score. So that was a huge point and big turning point in the ball game for sure.
Coach, how many guys do you guys lose next? How many seniors do you have on the team?
Gosh, going through it, I know on the offensive line we have 2, maybe 3 for sure. Mm-hmm. Obviously Michael, the quarterback, is a senior. The running back room is all young. We a couple of the wideouts, Jaquan Jackson and Lawrence Keys, are seniors. The tight end room is all back. On defense, I want to say all of our entire defensive line, I believe, it has the ability to come back. The linebackers, we lose a couple guys in the secondary. I think both our corners are seniors. So, it's not there's a few spots, but it's not just a ton of guys,
Right. Coach, I was really impressed with the article in the paper the other day. I think a lot of people know your dad is still coaching at Zachary. He and I have been friends for a long, long time. He's always been recruited my school, and we shared a lot of coffee and Diet Coke together, but you guys, there was an article about a kid by the name of Jenkins that has a hearing impediment that he can't use. When I was at Tulane, we had a guy by the name of Mark Benedetto had the same situation. He couldn't hear either. And that was pride and days. But your dad was the one that referred him to you guys. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, Cam Hamilton is the kid's name. And, Cam, he's his second year here. He played for us quite a bit as a true freshman last year. And I think he actually transferred to them, to my dad and them from McKinley. And when he went, Cam's a great kid. I mean, he's a hard worker. He's funny. He's great teammate, gets along with everybody. But I believe when he transferred to Zachary, he was really, I don't know that he actually was even considering playing football. And they got him out, on the team. And heck, his last 2 years, he ended up, being all district, and I want to say made all state his last year and all that. But I mean, an excellent young man. I mean, he's a 6'3.5", 295-pound guy that's extremely athletic. And I tell you what, he's extremely smart. He's got the hearing impairment, but he does excellent for us. He plays his butt off, and he's a joy to be around. He really is. He's a great young man for sure. And my dad and he have a pretty good relationship. So they when my dad comes down, we'll go out and grab a bite to eat and all those kind of things.
Yes, that's a marvelous story. Coach, tell me a little bit about our viewers, a little bit about the transfer portal, how you guys have benefited from that. Or maybe it's not as much as other people, but you certainly, I know, have gotten a lot of good players through the portal.
Yeah, it's just college football. The landscape of it is so different now. And, guys are jumping from one team to the next quite often. So I think one thing that and Coach really, makes a point of emphasis about this. I think one thing we've done a really good job of is doing our homework and really researching guys and making sure that they're good fits for their overall culture of the program, rather than just taking guys based off of athletic ability, because it's so important to make sure that the guys you bring in fit in. And I tell you, the guys that we have now, they're really, really good people, really good teammates. And, and a lot of them are making contributions and helping our team get better. So, it's, everybody approaches it a little bit different. Some teams are a little heavier involved with it than others, some on a need basis. But I think, before anything, I think it's important in our program that guys are a fit and they fit in with, with what we're trying to build as an overall team and program. So
I can see that Tulane being a great place for transfer portal people, coaches, especially since you guys have the academic reputation. You're going to get a real high character kid in most cases. So that should be a big benefit to you guys. Coach, you got a big ball game coming up, and I know you guys are open this week. You got a big ball game up at Memphis, and I can't ever remember us when I was at Tulane really playing great up there in that bowl.
Yeah.
We did play Penn State one year in the bowl. We lost 9-6. That was in the Liberty Bowl back in '79. But I don't ever remember having great memories of Memphis. I hope you guys can have a better opportunity up there. Tell us a little bit about that Memphis team.
I think they're a really good football team, and kind of like you, Coach, we haven't had a lot of success since we've been here. It's kind of been a back and forth battle, and the home team has won quite a few. So, that's a challenge for our players and our staff and everybody that we need to we need to buckle down and try and overcome that and have a good showing when we go out next Friday. But Memphis as a team, I think, is really good. I think it's two very similar teams. In fact, I told the offense the other day that, when we take the field in the Liberty Bowl here in a couple weeks or however many days it is, that there's going to be two good teams playing against each other. And it's basically going to come down to who can execute, who makes the least mistakes, and whenever your number is called and the play comes your way, who makes the most plays. And I think that'll be the really the tell of the ball game, because defensively they're very good on the front. They return guys at linebacker, and they're talented in the secondary. And I don't study their offense as much, but from watching them, I know they have a really good quarterback who's a 3-year starter, and those guys, they always do a good job. They've got a lot of pride in the program and have won a lot of football games here over the years. So it should be a good one for sure. We're looking forward to it.
I bet that's a big matchup, Coach. Coach, I had an opportunity to be with Michael Pratt for 3 summers at a Manning camp. He is a class. He is a class kid, and you can't. I'm sure you enjoy coaching him.
Yeah, he's great. Mike is great. He's. I tell you what you love best about Mike is competitive. And he loves football. And when we go out recruiting these days, a lot of times you're trying to judge talent and measurables and this and that, but the guy loves showing up every day. He comes in extra. I mean, he eats, breathes, sleeps football, and it's important to him. And he's such a good leader that influences and picks everybody up around him. And then on top of that, he's tough. I mean, the guy plays through injuries. He does everything you ask of him, and we're happy that he's our quarterback. I know that. So I wish we could have him for another 4 years. But he's been awesome, and I think he's only gotten better and better each year he's been here, and class act, and definitely a great leader in our program, on and off the field.
Coach, I can't think of one last question. Coach, tell us about your wife and family.
Yeah. My wife's doing great. We don't have any kids. It's just her and I and 2 dogs. And, I believe it's going to come out sometime this week. But my wife, she actually just went through, her aunt has been suffering from kidney disease. And so she went through a bunch of tests like her mom and her sister, and trying to be a donor. And turned out they weren't, direct matches, but she was able to get into a donor program. And I guess not last Wednesday, but the Wednesday before, she went up to, her aunt lives outside of Philly, and went up there, and she was able to donate a kidney for someone else who had a significant other that donated a kidney for her aunt. So she's in recovery right now and all that, but she got back Friday before we played UAB, and came to the game and doing good and all that kind of stuff. So she loves football too.
I bet she has to. I don't. They have no choice, do they? They have no choice.
No, that's right.
You bring it home with you. I know that. Coach, we're married to the same person. I know how that goes. Coach, listen, I can't thank you enough. Because what people don't understand, you're really developing a great reputation as the play caller. But it's more than just calling plays. A lot of times somebody has to put the design down, and the design has to come from somewhere. And you've done a great job. You and the staff have done a great job of doing that. And we just can't say enough about you guys. I know a lot of people are excited about Tulane football now, and that because you seem to have the program really on stable ground. And we can't thank you enough for being on the show. And good luck. We will be there the next home game for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it. And, we're going to keep plugging, and hopefully we play a good ball game up in Memphis here in next week. So
go deep, go deep, Coach. Go deep.
That's right. When in doubt, go deep. Huh?
Coach, thank you so much.
Thank you, Coach.
Yes, indeed. Y'all have a good one.
You too. We'd like to thank Coach Slade Nagle for joining us on the Let's Be Frank video podcast. We'd also like to thank LSR for being a sponsor of our podcast as well. LSR produces Southern Cane Pure Cane Sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. Southern Cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Ross supermarkets.
Samuel Liccardo Jr. and Henri P. Dufresne, your go-to River Parish lawyers. Experience, tenacity, and results. Sammy Liccardo and Henri Dufresne provide comprehensive legal services in personal injury, hurricane claims, business litigation, successions, and estate planning. Our trial experience, know-how, and commitment to protect and serve our clients is unparalleled. We provide complete real estate, title, and escrow services through our affiliate, State Title LLC. The River Parishes is our home, and serving our communities is our passion. Based out of Gramercy, Louisiana, LSR produces Southern cane, pure cane sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. LSR utilizes the latest innovations in technology, as well as ensuring the growth and stability of Louisiana sugarcane farmers by integrating more than 800 growers in the industry's economic structure. Southern cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets.
Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. Our goal has been to establish a strong relationship and partnership between you, the insurance company, and our agency, creating a circle of success that prepares for disasters before they actually happen.
We're going to kick off segment number 3 here on the Let's Be Frank video podcast. But before we get to that, we want to make sure we thank our sponsor, Riverlands Insurance, for being a part of our podcast since 1972. Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into the Let's Be Frank segment presented by ULCS. And Coach, today you are going to discuss, is the APR still in effect?
That's a great question. That I hear no talk and no discussion about this. A few years back, I interviewed for a head coaching job at a couple of universities, and that was a big thing they grilled you on, was the APR. How are you going to improve the APR? And exactly what is that? It's called academic progress rate, which refers to eligibility and retention of athletes. And the way it used to work, and I'm not really clear on it now, it used to work, you got 1 point for a kid staying in school, and you got 1 point for eligibility. So, and then you take the possible points and you multiply that by 1,000. And anything that was below a 930, that there was penalties involved. So any university that fell below, in other words, if a lot of guys dropped out of the program or were no longer there was penalties involved. You could lose up to 10% of your scholarship each year. I hear no talk about it. Is it still in effect? How's the NIL, how's the transfer portal impacted this, or does it count when that player transfers school, or is it just a wash? Below a 900, the penalties are normally involve missed practice time that they're not given, and scholarships, and sometimes loss of a bowl game. But again, I hear no discussion about this. And I remember a few years back, there was a school in the state, one of our state schools, could not participate in a bowl game because of a low APR. But now, all of a sudden, since the institutions of what we have now with the transfer portal, I don't hear much talk about it. So the supervisor NCAA membership could also be at stake for 1 year, or maybe a postseason ban. And so it used to be a way of measuring kids that would to make sure that they try to graduate, and it was a big push by the academians to make sure that that kids were really student athletes. But now you don't even hear that term anymore, student athletes, because of the NIL thing, where people making more money than the pros themselves, and because of the transfer portal. But where has the APR gone? I just don't hear any reference to it anymore. Coaches don't talk about it anymore, and it's never mentioned on TV. So is it still in effect or not?
Thanks, Coach. I think that's a very valid point. Because you mentioned over the phone when we were prepping for the show, and I had to scratch my head for a second. I heard the term years ago, as you mentioned, when there was a ban, postseason ban, but I don't know the last time I've heard that term used other than our conversation. So I think that's a great point to bring up. In our next segment, we have our Blitz the Ball Coach segment, where, Coach, you're going to discuss what is the purpose of the flip of the coin.
Well, yeah, this question came about from in fact, it was my brother-in-law and asked, because they had a big discussion at the Tulane game the other day about the flip of a coin. Well, the flip of a coin before the ball game, if a team decides to defer to the second half, that means that they get the choice in the second half whether they want the ball or not. And if not, they get a chance to pick the side. So when would you not? Maybe can you possibly kick off twice in a game? Yes. If a team decides not to take the ball in the second half, if I took the ball in the first half, I decide not to take it, I might want to choose to win. And maybe in some windy conditions, or maybe it's rain or whatever, or maybe I have a great kicker and I want to try to pin them back deep. So the process is, the flip of the coin takes place prior to the ball game. The captain will call heads or tails. If the winner of it gets a chance to take the ball or kick off, the loser of the flip gets a chance to pick the side, the field. At halftime, the officials go to the coaches and say, okay, coach, it's your choice in the second half. What do you want to do? And a lot of people don't know this, but that coach has the choice. Well, naturally, most time, he deferred for a reason, because he wants to receive the ball in the second half. So especially if he's down, I get first possession in the second half. But a lot of people don't understand there is an option there. That can a team kick off twice in the game and not receive the ball? Yes, that's very, very possible, depending upon conditions on that particular night.
Thanks, Coach. And isn't it possible also, if you just select the same thing as the team did before you, that also could be a possibility? Because there was an LSU game that it happened quite some time ago where they selected to either kick or receive the ball after the previous team did, and they ended up kicking the ball off twice in that ball game. Have you ever seen that happen in person?
I've seen it happen in person. It happened to us one time years ago when we were coaching, and we didn't realize what was going on, but the team never did kick off to us. And one, it might be the fact that they don't have a kicker. And, especially in high school, that happens sometimes. You get some of these programs that are not really deep, don't have a soccer program or whatever. Yeah, I have seen that happen. But then again, I think conditions probably prevail in a situation like that with that decision.
Thanks, Coach. And we're going to go ahead and move on to our final segment, our lock of the week. Coach, we've done pretty good this year, better than last year at least. And I think I've only taken one loss. I don't want to jinx it. Sorry if I did. But I think you're undefeated so far in the season, if not close to it. So who do you like this week?
I like Iowa. I like Iowa at home. They have a great tradition over there with the hospital being right behind them. I think they play at a different level. Iowa's a very, very sound defensive team. They don't put up a lot of lights. I mean, the second digit on the scoreboard is not used very often. That light bulb would probably last forever. But the bottom line is, I think that Coach Ferentz does a phenomenal job with the talent that he's got, and they're very, very physical. And when you go there, you better get ready to play.
Yeah, we mentioned it. I think the over under for the score is like 40. I'd still
it's 40, 45, something like that. Yes,
take the under. It's Iowa football. You always bet the under with Iowa football. I'm gonna actually go ahead and pick a game we talked about earlier. Kentucky at 14.5, like plus 14.5. That's a really tough. I know it's Georgia, but I really feel like Vegas is trying to play that lineup. I think that's a lot of points. Georgia hasn't been playing fantastic football. I know it's at Georgia, and I made this mistake last year, but I'm hoping the Wildcats will pull through for me, and Leary, like you mentioned, will save me this year as I'm picking against Georgia.
I think it's a good pick. Because I think, again, Georgia's not what they were, and they have not played a great schedule, in terms of that. They've struggled, especially even the other day at Auburn. They were lucky to win that football game.
Yeah, absolutely. Auburn nearly won that football game with a few plays going a different way. It could have easily gone the other direction, but that'll do it here for us. So we want to go ahead and make sure we mention our social medias and where to find us. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. At Facebook, it's at the Let's Be Frank Video Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at the LBF Podcast. And also you can listen to us on Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So that'll do it here, Coach. Who do we have next week?
We have a Coach Mark Bornice, the head football coach at Brother Martin High School next week. And guys, please say your prayers and let's pray for our world and thank the Lord for that we are able to be part of this great game of football.
Thank you, Coach. And for Justin Thomas, for Coach Frank Monica, I am Jason Duhe. And remember, let's lay ball and throw and lay, let the good times roll.